Alright guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today. For this one we have another little out and about video, and today I'm in Edinburgh and we're going to have a look at Campervan Brewery's Taproom. So really looking forward to this. This is somewhere I've wanted to visit for quite a wee while. I was actually intending to do this with a few other beer tubers, but it was quite a spontaneous trip through to Edinburgh this time, so didn't really have time to do that. But yeah, first time filming one of these on my new phone as well, so hopefully all goes well. We've got a pause record function now, which should make things a little bit easier in terms of editing and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully it works out. But as you can see behind me, there we have the original brew camper van from what I understand. So let's go in, do what we always do, take a look at the menu, do a wee walk around, try some beers, and then I'll give you my final thoughts at the end. But hope you guys enjoy this one, and it's nice to be filming back in the motherland again. So yeah, let's do this. So yeah, this place is pretty much just kind of in the middle of an industrial estate pretty much, but there you can see Campervan Brewery. You come around here, you've got all of your kind of park benches and stuff like this, and then yeah, the bar's basically in the back of a container, so this is quite cool actually. They've got some beers in the fridge which we'll look at in a minute, but yeah, here we go. So little quick look at the tap list and we'll pick out a few beers to taste. So yeah, on draft, yeah, Leaf Juice, Orange Zest IPA, the Pilsner, the Hoppy Botanist, Spooky Juice is going obviously, the Mimosa, Lost and Grounded Hellas, Fallen Choo, that's a very nice beer, I might need to try that on tap again. Dea, something good, Barney's Cranberry Sour and things, but yeah, Barney's, I've not had one of their beers in a while. Ascension Aeronaut Cider, that sounds pretty good, and yeah, you can get 1 litre growlers and stuff. So yeah, this is pretty nice. There you can see just the bar behind there. Obviously my camera doesn't like the lights, but yeah, you take a wee look round, they've got all of these picnic benches and stuff. So yeah, let's just take a little quick look at the bottled stuff while we're here actually. We might as well do it in one go. But yeah, as you can see, they've got some of their own beers. I'm going to get a can or two from here to take away with me and do sit-down reviews of. But yeah, quite a range of stuff. So these two down here are collaborations from what I understand. But yeah, some interesting stuff here. I've got a wasp at me, bugger off wasp. But yeah, some other Edinburgh things. Top Out Brewery, these guys do some good stuff. Some Arbor in there. Braybrook doing some really nice lagers. Brewski from back home in Sweden. Cigar City. Beerbibliotech, another Swedish one there. Canopy, I don't know these guys actually. Yeah, Two Towns Down Brewing, they're another brewery that I want to have a look at, so I might get one of their beers to take away. Ducat Brewing, Cross Borders, another New Barns there. So yeah, some interesting things. Coast Brewing Company, I don't know them, I'll need to look up who they are. But yeah, some Vault City in there, OJ IPA, Fallon Brewing, Hops and Dots, Queer Brewing, I never tried any of their stuff. Ascension Cider, Pilot of course from here in Scotland, some Tartan Shark actually. Ooh, that'll be quite nice, a Scotch ale there, Simple Things, some Belfield as well. So yeah, some really good bottles and cans in here actually, a nice wee range. I think I'll probably need to get a few things to take away with me, but let's go and try some of their own beers. We'll sit down and do as we always do. Alright guys, well, first beer tasting then here at Campervan Brewery Taproom. The first one that I've gone for is the Leaf Hills, if I remember rightly. Yeah, 4.8% ABV. You know, good way to start off one of these tasting videos is with a lager beer. So yeah, 4.7% ABV, as you can see and as you'd expect. Lovely kind of bright straw golden colour. When it poured, it had about a half finger of a frothy, perfect white head on it. Quite a clear one this, as you would expect. Looks absolutely lovely. I've just ordered 1/3 of each of the 4 beers that I'm going to taste, so yeah, that's always good. I think that's always a good amount when you just want to do tastings, as I like to do. But yeah, let's take a look at the aroma of this one then and see how we go. So first off, I'm going to say this one just smells really authentic, and as I've explained to you in my lager reviews, this is what I look for when it comes to these beers. I want them to be authentic and, you know, leaning towards what you would get from Germany or the Czech Republic. But this smells absolutely lovely. So straight away, with this beer. In the backbone you've got that lovely sort of wet white bready kind of thing coming out of it. You can smell a bit of bread crust in there too. You get the nice crispness out of the Pilsner malt in this one, and you know, it just gives you everything you'd want from the malt base. There's a wee bit of sweetness in there, a wee bit of a kind of biscuity character, you know, a bit of that caramelly biscuity sort of thing which you want. So yeah, I really like how this goes together in terms of its malty base, you know, a bit of the biscuity sweetness, bit of that wet bready sort of thing, bread crust, and the crispness of the Pilsner malt. Lovely in that regard. On the hoppy side of things, it's a bit difficult to say whether it's Czech or German hops in this one. It's quite bright, but at the same time it's got a wee bit of a kind of earthiness to it, so I'm not sure about that, not 100% sure, but yeah, a wee bit of earthiness in there, nice, quite deep floral aromatic notes actually, but a little bit of a more zesty kind of grassy sort of thing. Tempted to say it might be Czech Sats that's in this, but I'm not 100% sure. I never looked up the beer before we did it, I could have done that right enough. But yeah, in terms of the hoppy side of things, the green component is very nice. On the fruity side of things, it's giving you that typical sort of, you know, hairy, slightly spicy, appley sort of thing that you expect to this kind of beer. But yeah, I think it works really, really nicely actually. Lovely aroma off this one, and as I say, very authentic. That's what I look for in these Pilsner lager beers. So yeah, let's get stuck into this one, the Leith Pils from Campervan Brewery. Let's go for it.
For more, but I quite like it now because I do feel like the coffee.
That's really good. That's a very nice Pilsner. I've actually got a can of this to do a sit-down review of later, and I'll tell you right now, I'm going to enjoy that when it comes around. Still trying to find positions with this new camera and stuff like that. It looks really good though, I have to say, the picture, and the guy who's doing the table service gave me this to have in the video as well, which I thought was pretty awesome. So yeah, looks absolutely great. But this is a lovely Pilsner beer, so thumbs up to Campervan. Let's go into the tasting a bit more though. So yeah, in terms of the kind of toasty sort, in terms of the backbone with this, I would say, you know, the malty backbone is, as you expect, lovely kind of bread crusty notes there. That goes right across the middle of your palate. On top of that, you've got a bit of that kind of wet bready sort of thing. It actually tastes a little bit brown bready, this beer, in the malt base, I have to say. But on top of that, in the middle third of your palate, you're getting a bit more of the kind of, you get a wee bit of the kind of boozy, caramelly sort of thing in the middle of your palate, and as you move out from that, a wee bit more kind of McVitie's Digestive biscuity like, I have to say. So I do like that about this beer. Back third of the palate, you're definitely getting a wee bit more yeastiness and a more airy kind of bready sort of thing there. So as you go from the back, the sort of flavour density, if you like, kind of increases a lot, so you can feel the height of the flavour just coming down a bit and condensing together in that, pardon me, middle third of your palate. But let's look at the hoppy side of the beer then.
No one was like super corporate, which felt nice.
So yeah, hoppy side of the beer is pretty nice actually. Wee bit more earthiness to it than I'm used to from yeah, wee bit more earthiness to it than I'm used to from a Pilsner actually, but it works. So a little bit of earthiness in the back corners of the palate, wee bit more kind of a herbal quality coming forward, and as you move towards the front corners of the palate, it's got a little bit more of a kind of floral aromaticity, and round the front curve of the palate, a little bit lighter and grassy. A little bit of a wet, leafy, grassy character to this one actually, which is quite interesting. So yeah, I like that about this beer for sure. But on the front third of your palate, there's a nice wee bit of, you get that oily, juicy, fruity character in there. The base of the front third of your palate's a bit more bready, but yeah, at the back you get a bit of that kind of sultana, dry sultana type note there. But as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, it's a bit more oily and peary, and there's just a wee touch of a kind of appley sort of note to it. Then you get all the grassy esters right on the tip of the tongue. But a really solid Pilsner actually. Oddly enough, the more I drink of this, I wonder if there's English hops in this with the earthy and herbal characters. But yeah, I like this one. This is really solidly done. So mouthfeel wise, light bodied, crisp carbonation, which is what you want from the style. And yeah, crisp, you know, light bodied in terms of hoppy bitterness. I think about 20 IBUs, which again is what you want. Malt base is nice and crisp at the same time. Wee bit of sweetness, wee bit of graininess. It works. Then the fruity side of the beer it's got a little bit of that oily side of things to it. Gives you everything that you would want from this style. So I have to say, Leith Pils gets a big thumbs up from me, and I'm looking forward to doing my sit-down review of this one later on. But big thumbs up. Very impressed with this first one from Campervan Brewery. Let's take a break and go on to the next one then. Slange just now. Alright guys, well, time for the second tasting then here at Campervan Brewery. So second beer that we're going to have a look at is the Leith Juice, which comes in 4.7% ABV, and they're describing this one as an orange zest IPA. And if you've watched the channel for a long time, you will know I'm a bit of a sucker for these kind of orangey leaning beers. So yeah, this one looks pretty nice. As you can see, once again, lovely kind of bright yellow sort of golden colour. This one, when it poured, about a half finger of a frothy, I would have said perfect white head there. You can see some of the foam kind of just sticking around there, but you can see lovely kind of clarity to this beer as well. Just letting the camera focus on that there. Looks great. Still love this camera, by the way, it's awesome. But yeah, carbonation not so visible, but looks good. Appearance wise, kind of what you'd expect from an IPA. So we'll need to figure out exactly what kind of IPA this one is. But let's look at the aroma and see how we get on. Nothing too surprising about the appearance. Ooh, that does smell quite nice actually. I think it's more of a West Coasty type IPA, but you can certainly smell the big juicy orangey notes coming out of it for sure. So yeah, it's great. So backbone of this beer, absolutely some nice kind of biscuity notes to it. You've got a lovely kind of how do you say, you can smell a bit of a kind of soft bread crusty bready backbone to this one. On top of that, there's definitely some nice kind of biscuity brown sugary notes in there. So I think this is leaning more towards a kind of lighter, more biscuity West Coast IPA, but with a bit of orange in it, and you can definitely get that nice kind of orangey zesty oily kind of thing sitting on top of it. So yeah, I like how that goes together on this one. The malt base is actually masked quite a bit by the big oily orange character in this beer, but you know, when you go for an orange zest IPA, that's kind of what you would expect actually. So yeah, I do like how this beer goes about its business in that sense. So yeah, malty side of things is quite nice. Let's look at the hoppy and fruity side of the beer then. So again, you know, hoppy wise, you smell a bit of a green component off this one, but the aroma, you know, whenever you go for a fruit IPA, the fruit is always going to dominate, and that's what you're getting with this one. You get a wee teeny bit of earthiness to it, you can smell a little bit of a floral aromaticity and a bit of grassiness to it, a wee bit of grassy zestiness there, but you can sort of smell that the orange zest is just kind of suppressing a lot of that green component, and you find this in the flavour too. Any fruity adjuncts always just suppress a wee bit of the bitterness and the green component of the hops, so you can get these notes, but they are quite suppressed in a sense. So yeah, this is quite interesting from that perspective too. But on the fruity side of things, you know, it's big orangey and zesty as you'd expect. You can certainly smell, I get a wee bit of a kind of appley peary sort of thing out of this one. You can smell a wee bit of a lighter tangerine hoppy note as well. But yeah, the orangey zest really kind of dominates this, but maybe a wee bit of a lemony zest. I wouldn't be surprised if this has got something like Centennial or you know, Centennial and Amarillo or Centennial and Mosaic. I think that's maybe what they're going for with this beer. I think there is something that tells me the lemony notes in this just remind me of Centennial a little bit, and then you've got that kind of oily, zesty, juicy Amarillo kind of thing to it, but could be a wee bit of Mosaic as well, softer kind of juicy tangerine. But yeah, it looks pretty nice actually, and it smells pretty good. So let's have a wee taste of this one then and see how it goes. So yeah, the Leith Juice, 4.7% orange zest IPA. I've got a wee fruit fly going around, so it's annoying me. But there we go. Let's have a taste of this one then. Sláinte, skål.
The reason why it's like that is so that it's very obvious not
But yeah, that's pretty nice actually. It's not quite as oily and kind of fruity and things as I thought it was going to be. I actually find this beer to be quite bready in its base, which I wasn't expecting, so that's interesting. I think in fairness, the more that you taste of it, the more you get the kind of orangey side of the beer. Because yeah, it is quite bready and light in its malt base. Not too sweet not too sweet. But then the further you go into the aftertaste with it, it's the oily orangey zest that kind of lingers there. So let's break this down. Yeah, middle third of your palate and back third of your palate, bread crusty based, soft white bready note in there, kind of pale malty I would say. Get that soft white bready kind of thing there. It actually gives you a wee bit of that almost bread crusty and floury kind of thing as well. I don't really pick up any. It's kind of interesting because I was picking up biscuity sweetness in the aroma, but I don't really get it in the malt base there. It actually tastes as if this one could be something like, you know, Munich malt or pale malt or something like this. I've got a feeling that that's maybe what this is, or it could be a wee bit of like Golden Promise or something. But yeah, in fairness, the further you go into the aftertaste, you do get a wee bit of a kind of biscuity McVitie's Digestive sort of thing out of this. So that is quite interesting. So I like that about this beer for sure. Yeah, it has got a nice kind of backbone to it. It's almost like a kind of pale ale in that sense. So it's a thumbs up from me in that regard. But yeah, this is quite nice in its malt base, and it gives a good contrast, I would say, but there's not too much else to say about the malty side of things. The only other thing we can say is that on the back third of your palate you get a bit more of a kind of yeasty element to it. But on the hoppy side of things, in the back corners of the palate there is a wee bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward you get a wee bit of a herbal quality, and as you push further forward towards the front corners of the palate there is a floral aromaticity there. Round the front curve of the palate you get a little bit of a lighter grassiness and a wee bit of zestiness, but I would say that underneath that you do get a little bit, you know, it does, as you go later further into the aftertaste I should say, the orangey zest kind of pushes that back, so you don't get quite the same bitterness out of it. But let's focus on that front third of your palate and the kind of zest, the kind of fruity side of the beer, and it is quite zesty, absolutely.
What's your palate? Not great.
So yeah, you do get a wee bit of an oily, hoppy kind of character underneath. At the back of that front third of your palate, you can feel a wee bit of a kind of, you know, stronger citrusy sort of thing. But it feels, the whole front third of your palate feels quite light and tangerine-y, but I would say as you come further forward, it becomes a little bit more kind of zesty and oily in a sense. And I do wonder if there is a wee bit of Centennial in this, because you do get a wee bit of a more zesty lemon behind the front tip of the palate. But nice oily orangey kind of character on the front, and then a bit of a lighter tangerine note there. So could be Mosaic, could be Amarillo, but I do wonder maybe a wee bit of Centennial in this one actually. But yeah, the orangey zest kind of thing on this one, you can feel that around the very edge of your palate. You can just feel that wee pungency, and it pushes against the green component of the beer, absolutely. But I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour of this one. Mouthfeel wise, mid-bodied, smooth carbonation, actually quite an oily beer, but not the thickest in that sense. But yeah, I do like how this beer goes about its business in that particular regard. But yeah, it's solid enough. Hoppy bitterness, 20 IBUs, something like that. Zestiness, I think, though, and kind of a bit. The orange is a little bit bitter, not bitter. Just gives you a wee bit of the sour thing, so it might feel a little bit more bitter than that. 25-30 IBUs at most, though. Malt base is quite smooth, as we said. Not really much sweetness to it, but big oily fruity characters. But another nice beer actually, but I'm not sure I prefer this one over the Pils, I have to say. I do like the Pilsner, I was quite impressed with that. But solid enough beer, I have to say. So let's leave it at that for this one. This was the Leith Juice 4.7% ABV. Let's go on to our next one. So yeah guys, just to let you have a little look at this van here, it's pretty awesome, I have to say. So I think you can obviously come around here and, you know, kind of chill and stuff, but yeah, it does look pretty awesome. I say, I always kind of wanted one of these, but I think they're quite difficult to maintain and stuff like that. But yeah, pretty cool to see the original camper van thing, and there you can see some of the nice artwork and stuff out the back. But yeah, another wee fun thing to add into the video. So there you go, the original Campervan Brewery campervan. Alright guys, well, time for tasting number 3 here then at Campervan Brewery. So the one that we've got now is the Mimosa. Comes in at 4.8% ABV, and they're describing this one as a mango lime sour. So as you can see, this beer's got that lovely, very bright, hazy sort of sour beer appearance to it. Nice and hazy, it looks absolutely great. When this beer poured, I don't think it had too much of a head to it, just a kind of pure white sort of thing. Not too much carbonation visible in this one, but I mean, in terms of appearance, this is pretty much what you would expect for a sour beer. So yeah, let's take a look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Nothing else we can really say about the appearance for this one. A lot of the colour obviously is coming from the mango addition to the beer, so let's look at it. So that's weird, I have to say. Aroma of this one, I'm not too keen on. It's got this, it smells like Fugo hops, English Fugo hops. So it's got this earthy, ashy kind of thing to it. What is that? yeah, that's really unusual. I mean, yeah, this earthy kind of ashy sort of thing going on with it. Not 100% sure what that is actually. So, yeah, not 100% keen on the aroma of this one, I have to say. Now, this might just be because of my experience with Swedish, Danish, Finnish, Nordic sour beers, but the aroma of this one isn't too pleasant, I have to say. Just that earthy, ashy sort of thing. It really smells like those English Fugo hops. Not a great fan of that, I have to say. But yeah, that's just the first thing that comes out of this one. It just smells a bit unusual for a mango lime sour, I have to say. But the malt base, let's look at the malt base and just see what we get. But yeah, I mean, you can smell a bit of a kind of bread crusty, grainy sort of thing coming out of it. It's got a wee bit of that soft white bread in there. You do get a wee touch of a yogurty kind of thing that you would expect from a Berliner Weisse or a Gose or something like this. You do get a little bit of that out of this beer, but there is quite a bit of a hoppy character to this one. In the Nordic countries, they don't often add hops to the sour beers. This is something I know that here in Scotland, of course, Vault City do it, and I think Holy Goat, of course, do it as well. But the kind of hoppy character to this beer is a little bit off-putting, I have to say. I do suspect there's a bit of English Fugel in this. Otherwise, it's something to do with the yeast or the grains that's giving you that kind of weird ashy thing that this beer has. And I'm, as I say, just not that keen on it. But outside of that, on the hoppy side of things, you do get a little bit of floral character, a bit of a kind of grassy zestiness, definitely. And then behind that, you can smell that the mango in this is really quite juicy and quite ripe. It's got a little bit of a green thing to it. I think if I was smelling this blind, I might wonder if it's guava. I've always found that guava's a little bit more like a very kind of green and ripe mango. So yeah, the aroma out of this one is really quite interesting. So yeah, I like how that goes together in this beer for sure. But yeah, you can smell a bit of the kind of zesty lime as well, actually. But I think the mango really takes the lead, and it's quite a juicy and ripe mango note that you get with this one. But you do get a wee bit of that more zesty lime in there as well. But other than that, there's not too much to say about the aroma. So let's have a taste of this one and see how we go on. But as I say, not a fan of that earthy kind of thing that's going on with this beer. So yeah, this one is the Mimosa once again. And this is one of their own beers here at Campervan Brewery. Let's look at this one. Sláinte Skål. Now, I'm going to say it tastes really, really nice. So this is one of these beers where it has a really weird aroma that is almost a little bit off-putting, but the beer itself, I think, is actually a really nice sour beer. It's quite different in its vibe from from the other ones that I've had. I'm just thinking about Nordic sours, of course, but that is a very, very good sour beer. So I'm going to say thumbs up to Campervan Brewery once again for this. I think that's really solid, actually. So impressed with this. Really weird, not very nice aroma, but a lovely taste. And just it's quite often how it's quite unusual how you can just come across these things every so often. But yeah. But yeah, that's really nice. I'm not sure what's going on over there. Strimmer or something like that. Sure, kind of annoying when you're filming a beer video. But anyway, you can't control the environment around you. That's just life. But yeah, this is nice though. Let's break down the flavour for you.
Yeah, but now I can do like all your
So, straight away, middle of your palate with this one is quite straightforward. Bit of soft breadiness underneath. You can feel a little bit of a slightly thicker, I suspect, wheaty kind of note with this one. It does get a little bit, it does have a wee bit of a thicker kind of yeasty note to it on the back of on the back third of your palate. But yeah, middle third of your palate, soft bread crust, a little bit of white bread there, maybe a bit of an oaty smoothness to it, I suspect. But on the back third of your palate, as I say, a wee bit more wheaty bitiness and a wee bit more, you can feel like a slightly thicker yeasty kind of thing about this beer as well. So the malty side of things is quite nice, actually. I do like that. Oddly enough as well, the hoppy side of this beer isn't too prominent. You do get a wee bit of earthiness in the back corners of the palate. As you move further forward, it is a little bit herbal, and as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate, there is a little bit of a floral note there, and round the front curve of the palate, a wee bit of grassy zestiness. But it's actually quite a juicy and soft, fruity beer, this one. it's really nice. It actually gets a bit creamier and things, and a bit sweeter the further you go into the aftertaste. It does taste a wee bit like it does taste like a mimosa cocktail. Actually, I've not had those too often, but it does kind of fit the bill as one of these beers. So I like it, absolutely.
Is that the guy who likes
Yeah. So I think on the fruity side of things, it's pretty much as it says. The base on the front third of your palate, you get that soft, white bready, yogurty kind of thing. You do get a little bit of that out of this beer. But there's a lovely, you do get a soft mango there. You can feel the softness and the juiciness of the mango, and towards the very tip of the tip of the tongue, you get a little bit of that more kind of sharp, limey sort of thing. But it's oily and limey, and it's just a bit more zesty. But it's a lovely, lovely take on a sour beer. This is really nice, as I say. Really weird aroma for me, but I think it works kind of quite nicely. But you can feel the fruitiness just spreading around the front edge of the tongue, and that suppresses a little bit of the hoppy side of the beer for sure. But I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour. Mouthfeel wise, I'd say that this is kind of top end of mid-bodied overall, but it's quite a thick sour beer, this one, I would say, but really nicely done. For me, quite a creamy sour as well. A mix of creamy and oily character out of this one. IBUs, I think, are very low in this. 10 IBUs at the absolute most. I think there maybe is a little bit of hop in this one, but I think a lot of the juicy fruitiness kind of suppresses that. But the fruitiness, bit sharp, bit juicy, a little bit zesty, but lovely soft tropical character to it, and that's what dominates. But a lovely sour, this one. The Mimosa, 4.8% ABV. This is very, very nice. But yeah, that's the end of tasting number 3. We're going to do a 4th tasting, but this is the last Campervan Brewery beer that we're going to review on this one. They didn't have anything dark on tap, unfortunately, of their own stuff, so we're going for something dark from somebody else, and I know it's a good beer, and I'm excited to try it again. So catch you in a second with tasting number 4. Alright guys, well, 4th and final tasting then here at Campervan Brewery Taproom, and I wanted something dark to kind of round off, as I said in the last one. Unfortunately didn't have any of their own dark beers on tap, but I saw one that is a little bit of a Scottish icon in my opinion. So this last beer that we're going to have a look at, this is the Choo Salted Caramel Stout from Fallon Brewing in Kippen, near my hometown of Stirling. So this is quite nice, a 6% salted caramel stout. This one looks absolutely lovely. As you can see, dark sort of ebony rosewood colour. You can see there's a little bit of head on this one. I think when it poured, it had about a quarter, 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of light beigey coloured head. But it looks absolutely great. This looks very, very nice, and kind of exactly as you would expect from a stout beer. But this is one of these stouts, it might be low in alcohol content, but it certainly packs a punch in its flavour. And as I say, for me, this is probably one of the best craft, can we call it a single stout, a regular stout, I guess you could say, that you're going to find in Scotland. Although there's many new breweries have popped up since I lived here on a full-time basis. So, take that comment with a pinch of salt. Do let me know some other good stouts in the comment section below if you've got recommendations. But this, I think, is one of the kind of classic, really good ones. So if you get the chance to try this, I recommend that you do. But I've not had it in a long time, so looking forward to this. But lovely looking beer, this. Let's do the aroma. Beautiful, love it. So the backbone of this one, definitely some lovely big kind of brown bready notes. This one, a wee bit of a toasty, slightly well-fired bread crust, you do get that, but at the same time you've got a lovely smooth kind of brown, almost, I don't know if I really want to say rye bread, but yeah, it's got a lovely smooth big brown bready component to it, and it's absolutely lovely. Love it. Yeah, aroma of that is really, really nice, but it gets a big thumbs up from me actually. I really like what this one has for us. On top of that kind of brown bread, you do get a little bit of this kind of cocoa nib, dry, powdery chocolate sort of thing. You certainly get a bit of that out of this one. And when we're talking about the chocolate, I would say that it's a sort of 60, maybe 70% cocoa. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. It's at the top end of the milk chocolate part of the spectrum, but at the lower end of the dark chocolate end of the spectrum, if that makes sense. But Yeah,
The bitterness is one of them.
that chocolatey note is really nice. You can smell the big brown sugary notes, and this one, it's quite a toasty caramel that you get out of this, but at the same time you do get a little bit of that more oily sweet caramel. It's quite, you get a bit toastiness, but you do get that sweeter side of the caramel as well. You can certainly smell a wee bit of the saltiness out of it too, which is quite interesting. But yeah, it's very sweet in its malt base, although the sweetness is a kind of dry sweetness, if that makes sense. But aroma on the malty side of this beer is lovely. On the hoppy side of things, I'd say there's a wee bit of earthiness in there. There is a little bit of a floral character as well, and a wee bit of a lighter grassiness. But the hoppy side of this beer is really nice and very, very smooth. Actually, I don't know what hops they use in this. I probably, I could look it up if I went on the Fallon Brewing website, but it's not such a kind of big deal if you like. A little bit of grassiness, I say, wee touch of floral note, but earthy, a little bit herbal, and quite smooth in its hoppy character, generally speaking. On the fruity side of the beer, there's a little bit of a soft kind of light figgy kind of element to it, maybe a wee bit of a black curranty sort of thing, but the fruity notes for me on this one, it's got a wee teeny bit of sharpness, a little bit of a raisiny sort of thing, but that's quite minimal. It is soft and figgy and kind of black curranty, I would say. So yeah, I do like how it goes together in this one. The aroma of this beer is pretty nice. So yeah, really works very, very well in that regard. But yeah, whole aroma on this one is very nice. And as I say, I've had this beer 3 or 4 times. This is one that if I see it on tap, I'm always tempted, right, I need to do that. I think I've reviewed this one on tap from somewhere else actually, but I forget where that was. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. So this one is the Choo Salted Caramel Stout, 6% from Fallon Brewing in Kippen, near my hometown of Stirling. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, it's really nice on tap as well. I always think, because you get these big imperial stouts these days, these big sweet beasts that are going about, and we're just used to different things with stouts, but this is one of the lower alcohol ones that can really just kind of capture the imagination, if you like. It's one of these ones that can really just show you what a lower alcohol stout can be. It's just so well done. It is a classic, this. If you're interested in Scottish beer, Choo is one of the beers that you really just need to try. But yeah, I think that is really, really nice. Yeah, in terms of the malty backbone, now let's break down the flavour of this. Straight away across the middle of your palate, bit of a toasty bread crust, brown bread on top of it, absolutely, that is the backbone of the beer. 1 or 2 little woody undertones to it, absolutely. But yeah, really quite bready in its backbone. In the middle third of your palate, you can certainly get that toasty brown sugary note there from the caramel, but the further you go into the aftertaste with it, you get a bit of the saltiness out of it. But in the middle of the palate, in the dead centre, you do get more of a kind of oily, sort of fudgy sort of thing out of this beer, which is kind of interesting. I do get wee hints of vanilla out of it actually as well, which I don't remember from before. The other thing that strikes me about this beer as well is that it feels a little bit more bready than I remember it being, but that might just be the fact that it's on tap. That might be the thing. It might be to do with the conditioning, I don't know, but I certainly find this one a little bit more bready than I remember it. But you remember, your palate is changing all the time, but this has got everything you want from a low ABV stout. It's, as I say, for me, one of the classics of the Scottish craft beer world. Love this beer.
It was quite funny because I quite enjoy centre of them, but they quite far away.
But yeah, this is really kind of nice, really very nice, I should say. Hoppy side of the beer then, back corners of the palate, nice little bit of a smooth earthiness in there, a little bit of a slightly herbal quality as you move further forward, but towards the front corners of the palate, little bit kind of floral, aromatic kind of thing, wee bit of a kind of grassy earthiness in there, and you've also got a little bit, you do get a wee bit of a kind of grassy, zesty sort of thing around the front curve of the palate, which I do like. But yeah, hoppy wise, it's kind of what you'd expect. Let's look at the fruity side of the beer in the front third of your palate. So yeah, front third of your palate. Base of that, of course, is the soft bready kind of thing again. But fruity wise, it's kind of what I was picking up in the aroma. At the back of the front third of your palate, yeah, you get a wee bit of a juicy kind of figgy sort of thing. Then as you move further forward, it kind of dries out a little bit, and it becomes a little bit more kind of more like a dried figgy kind of quality. Then you get a wee bit more of a kind of oily black curranty kind of thing towards the kind of front tip of the tongue. But yeah, the fruity side of the beer is very soft and quite dried and fruity, and I think that suits it. So let's look at the mouthfeel to round off then. So yeah, fruit, you know, overall mouthfeel of this beer, kind of top end to mid-bodied for me. The mouthfeel of this beer is quite thick when you consider it's a sort of single regular stout, if you like. But carbonation is very, very smooth. For me, it's got a little bit of dryness to it. It's got a little bit of a dry stout character in a sense. But at the same time, it's quite an oily beer, and that helps bring out the sweetness. In terms of IBUs, it's hard to say with this one because you do get a bit of toastiness out of the malt base with this one. So the IBU count is a little bit difficult to pick, and you do get a bit of dryness from the chocolate as well, which is quite interesting. So I wonder if this beer is kind of, I wonder if it's maybe about 40-ish IBUs, somewhere between 30 and 40. It's not madly bitter, but you do get a bit of bitterness from all sides in this beer. But malt base, as we say, bready, a bit dry underneath, but certainly sweet and kind of salty on top, which is interesting. And you do get some nice oily fruity character out of this beer. But it's really nice to come back to this one. I think we can kind of round off this one there. But yeah, this is my final tasting here at Campervan. I'll give you my final thoughts just to end the video then. So we'll leave it there. This one, Choo from Fallon Brewing in Kippen near Stirling. Slange just now. Alright guys, so just to kind of round off here and give you my final thoughts. I had a really nice time here at Campervan Brewing. I sat here for maybe about an hour or so and filmed those 4 tastings. It was really nice. I picked up a few cans out of the fridge as well. Just beers that struck me as being interesting, breweries that I hadn't tried before. So yeah, looking forward to reviewing those as sit-down reviews. But special shout out to Ben in the red shirt. I'm not sure if you can see him behind me there, but he was awesome and really good on the service, I have to say. But yeah, really nice vibe here. I bought like 4 cans and I had 4/3, as you saw. It only came to £24. I was like, that's cheap as shit, really crazy. But yeah, definitely come and visit Campervan Brewing if you find yourself in Edinburgh. It's a fair wee walk from the town, but you know, you can walk through the streets, you can enjoy it. Edinburgh's nice, you know, just go for it. And apparently there's going to be a new Barnes Taproom and what's that new brewery called? Moonrake? I forget, yeah, the name, Moonwake. Yeah, these guys are going to be opening up a tap room quite soon, which isn't too far away from here. So yeah, really cool to come and check out Campervan Brewery after all this time, having heard of them for quite a long time. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Just a little spontaneous out and about video of this. But yeah, Campervan Brewing comes highly recommended. My only complaint that I had today was that they didn't have one of their own dark beers on tap. But I'm sure they'll have that on other days. Maybe I just got unlucky today. But yeah, check these guys out. Hope you enjoyed this one. Catch you guys on the next one. Slange School, cheers. Make sure you check out Campervan Brewing here in Leith in Edinburgh. Cheers.